Some places were built to heal, but over time, they became prisons for voiceless cries, trapped inside stone walls, dark hallways, and rooms that would never open again. Asylums, once symbols of hope, now stand as monuments to the most terrifying silence, the kind that still whispers at night. These are the 10 most terrifying abandoned asylums in America. Though the patients are gone, the echoes have never left. 1. Trans-Allegheny, Lunatic Asylum, Weston, West Virginia. Tucked in the mountains of West Virginia, Trans-Allegheny Asylum is a grand 19th century architectural masterpiece, originally intended to bring peace to those in need. But it didn't take long for it to become one of the most infamous asylums in America. This massive gray stone building was designed for about 250 patients. By the 1950s, it housed over 2,000. Hallways overflowed, dorms ran out of beds. Those once sent here for care were now forgotten. Old records describe parts of the asylum with no natural light, no heating, and near total silence. Those living there heard only the wind or footsteps in the next room, though no one had lived there for years. The asylum closed in 1994 and was abandoned for many years. Yet oddly, it was never truly quiet. Locals report seeing lights flickering at night, though there's no electricity. Filmmakers once recorded inside and caught an echoing voice whispering, "Take me back," from the 3rd floor, formerly the ward for the most uncontrollable patients. Their recorder picked up a language no one could identify, but the guide swore. No one in the group spoke during the moment it was captured. Today, Trans-Allegheny offers limited tours, but the guides always give one warning. If you hear your name being called, don't answer. 2. Pennhurst, State School and Hospital, Spring City, Pennsylvania. Not all asylums were for adults. Pennhurst was built in 1908 as a home for children with developmental disorders. Over time, it became a sprawling complex of over 10 buildings, connected by cold tunnels, isolating its residents entirely from the outside world. In the 1960s, an investigative journalist released a shocking exposé on Pennhurst. The footage stunned the nation. Crumbling facilities, overwhelmed staff, and neglected residents, left without conversation, care, or dignity. Eventually, the government ordered it closed. But the stories never really ended. Locals still report strange nighttime noises, the creak of a wheelchair, soft knocks on the walls. One team recorded what sounded like a child's faint singing, though the building was completely empty. The air is icy, even in summer. One investigator said he felt breathing on the back of his neck while standing in the old infirmary. When he turned around, there was no one. Pennhurst now hosts some cultural tours, but every group receives the same advice. Respect the space, because some who once lived here might still be listening. 3. Norwich State Hospital, Norwich, Connecticut. Near the Thames River lies Norwich State Hospital, opened in 1904, and once a premier psychiatric facility in the Northeast. With over 30 buildings sprawling across massive grounds and an underground tunnel network, it was practically a city of its own. Throughout the decades, Norwich treated all kinds of patients, from those with trauma to severe long-term conditions. But the facilities quickly decayed. Windowless rooms, peeling paint, moldy ceilings. Some say the tunnels below echo with scratching sounds, like fingernails on stone. After its closure in 1996, the hospital sat abandoned. But what lingers isn't concrete, it's memory. A documentary crew lost all their footage after filming just one night. Their cameras malfunctioned. Reviewing brief clips, they heard a metallic clink repeating 3 times. No such sound occurred during their visit. Police were called after locals reported someone walking in the main building, but it was empty. The attic was locked. GPS devices failed inside the tunnels. Today, Norwich stands as a relic, but to those who've entered, it feels like a place where memories slowly come alive, night after night. The asylums you've just heard about aren't merely closed. They're memory vaults, places where the final words of forgotten souls still linger in stone. But this is only the beginning. In Part 2, you'll enter facilities where controversial treatments were performed and where truth didn't lie in paperwork, but in shadows. Are you ready? 4. Danvers State Hospital, Massachusetts. If one place embodies the birth of controversial 20th century psychiatric treatments, it's Danvers State Hospital. Built in 1878 atop a high hill in Massachusetts. Designed in the authoritarian Kirkbride style, the hospital's structure felt more like control than care. With endless X-shaped corridors and bunker-thick brick walls, Danvers pioneered de-patterning therapy, once seen as revolutionary. But behind the clinical walls were buried stories, patients who never left the surgical room, muffled cries that went unanswered. The hospital quickly became overcrowded, housing over 2,000 patients in a space designed for less than half that number. Pressure, neglect, and decay infected every floor. When it closed in 1992, parts remained untouched. Rusted bed frames, open filing cabinets, and in one treatment room, a message written in charcoal: "I'm still here." A cameraman once reported that his microphone picked up wind, though there wasn't any breeze where he stood. Another swore he heard footsteps behind him, but when he turned, nothing. Much of Danvers has now been demolished, but some areas are still sealed off. Crumbling walls remain, silent witnesses to those who never left. 5. Eloise Psychiatric Hospital, Michigan. Eloise began as a modest poorhouse outside Detroit. Over time, it grew into a vast medical complex with up to 75 buildings, including its own morgue, crematorium, and even a private radio station. But its fame wasn't due to progress. At its peak, Eloise experimented with harsh treatments, cold water therapy, insulin shocks, and hours-long psychic manipulation sessions. No one knows how many treatments were successful, but many left not through the front door, but on a stretcher. After gradually closing in the 1980s, most buildings were torn down, but the main ward still stands, and many believe it's the heart of all phenomena. Visitors at night describe a crushing feeling, like unseen eyes watching from above. In one amateur video, a metal door on the third floor slowly opened, then closed. No wind, no one nearby. A security guard once heard faint laughter from the locked basement. When he called for backup, the sound stopped, then echoed over the walkie-talkie. No one else was speaking. Eloise today is a shadow of its past, but locals insist it's never truly quiet, because some memories, when held back too long, begin to tell their own stories. 6. Rolling Hills Asylum, New York. Rolling Hills didn't start as a hospital. It began as a poorhouse, taking in the homeless, the destitute, and the abandoned. Over time, it evolved into a facility for those deemed unfit, the mentally ill, the socially rejected, or simply those the world had forgotten. Behind it lies a private cemetery, over 1,700 unnamed graves. The names have faded from the stones, but within the walls of the building, they seem to remain. Rolling Hills is home to a famous shadow figure among ghost hunters, the Shadow Man. He's said to be taller than average, faceless, and usually seen in the south wing or the old kitchen. Witnesses report seeing him standing at the end of the hall, back turned, disappearing as soon as anyone approaches. One tour guide recalled speaking to a group when the door behind her opened gently and closed. She assumed it was the wind until she reviewed the security footage. The doorknob slowly turned, though no one was there. Whispers, voices calling out names, and sudden freezing temperatures are common at rolling hills. Locals avoid the grounds at night, not out of fear, but because they don't want to disturb someone who might still be resting. 7. Greystone Park, Psychiatric Hospital, New Jersey. Built in 1876, Greystone followed the Kirkbride model, based on the belief that architecture could heal the mind. But when the patient count far exceeded capacity, that belief became an empty promise. With over 2,200 feet of continuous hallways and more than 40 buildings, Greystone once housed over 7,000 patients. Reports from the 1950s revealed a facility lacking natural light, poor ventilation, and exhausted staff. Some say patients got lost inside and were never recorded as leaving. After closure, the site became a curiosity for film crews. One team setting up on the 3rd floor captured an eerie event. Their microphone picked up a woman's lullaby, though the crew was entirely male and the room was empty. A neighbor once claimed that during every full moon, lights on the 2nd floor would flash 3 times. No one had keys. The electricity had been shut off since 2005. Most of Greystone has been demolished, but its foundations remain, and some believe the memories beneath refuse to be forgotten. What you've heard so far isn't just history. These are memories time couldn't erase, voices that were never answered. But in the final part, you'll enter places where even the breathing still echoes through the empty halls, where even the darkness dares not spread. Are you ready for the end? The place where the walls don't just whisper, but follow you home? 8. Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Louisville, Kentucky. If any place embodies every urban legend ever told, Waverly Hills is near the top. It wasn't originally an asylum, but a tuberculosis hospital in the early 20th century. Over time, however, Waverly became a symbol of shadow and forgotten memory. Built on a hill with heavy Gothic architecture, Waverly is most famous for its body chute, a tunnel used to discreetly remove the deceased from the hospital without alarming others. Once repurposed as a psychiatric facility, it quickly became overcrowded. Entire floors were sealed off, some rooms left untouched. It's said that parts of the building never see light, not due to lack of windows, but because the darkness itself refuses to leave. Visitors often say that when they pass the 5th floor, once an isolation ward, they hear rolling beds, doors creaking open, and sometimes soft breathing directly by their ear, though the hallway is empty. One investigative team recorded a heavy steel door opening by itself, followed by a soft child's laugh. Then, for exactly 7 seconds, all their cameras glitched, only in that moment. Today, Waverly Hills allows limited night tours, but most who've been there leave with something strange, as if something followed them home. 9. Athens Lunatic Asylum, Ohio. Built in 1874, Athens Lunatic Asylum was one of Ohio's largest psychiatric institutions, known for its vast, fan-shaped corridors and enclosed courtyards. But its legend centers around one mark that never disappeared. In the 1970s, a patient named Margaret Schilling, an introverted woman, vanished from her ward. Weeks later, her body was found in a locked attic room, rarely used. But what chilled investigators was this: Her body print remained on the floor, indelible. They scrubbed it, replaced tiles. Yet under angled light, the silhouette would return, as if the memory of the room refuses to let go. Afterward, staff reported strange events. Hallway lights flickering on at 2 a.m., footsteps above in unused floors. One employee said, "You can feel someone standing at the end of the corridor, watching, even if you can't see them." Today, parts of Athens have been converted into a university and museum. But Margaret's room remains untouched, a reminder that, once someone is forgotten, the place itself may never let them go. 10. St. Albans Sanatorium, Radford, Virginia. Hidden. Among the forests of Virginia, St. Albans appears serene on the outside, but its walls hold layers of heavy memory. Originally a boys' school, it was later converted into a psychiatric facility for war-traumatized soldiers and long-term patients. St. Albans is infamous, not only for its harsh treatments, but also for its many abandoned areas, flaking hallways, rusted bathrooms, and iron doors that echo every step, and sometimes the footsteps of someone else. A photographer once reported that while shooting in the basement, he heard the scrape of a chair, clear and close. Reviewing his recorder, the sound repeated, as if someone was creating a rhythm intentionally. Night tour cameras often lose signal in the same hallway junction, once a special observation room. No one knows why. Though partially restored, locals still warn, don't wander through St. Albans alone after 9 p.m., because something there always knows where you are, and always stands right behind you. The places you've just heard about no longer operate, but they have never been truly silent. Perhaps asylums don't trap people. Perhaps memories, when suppressed too long, force their way into sound, vision, or that knock on your door at midnight. Those cracked walls don't just tell stories. They remember every step, every stare, every name once whispered and never answered. And if you ever find yourself in front of an abandoned building, sealed for decades, listen, not for what's inside, but for what's listening to you. So tell me, which asylum chilled you the most? And where should we go next? Abandoned hospitals, prisons, hotels, or the place you once saw in your nightmare? Because sometimes, it's the places we forget that hold something still waiting to be found.